ngang hả chị?
Dạ vâng, chúng ta đã trở lại after the break và sau đây sẽ là phần chia sẻ của bạn Huỳnh Đoàn Minh Huy với chủ đề Why was the Trump and Kim Jong-un second summit held in Vietnam? What role did Vietnam take? Xin mời em.
Hi everyone, I'm here today to talk about the reasons why the second summit between Trump and Kim Jong-un was held in Vietnam. So to start off with, I would like to talk about a little bit about the history of Vietnam. As many of you are aware that Vietnam have a long history of conflict, and most recently, one of the biggest conflict was the Cold War, and Vietnam is the center of it. The Cold War have last about 10 years, and it has devastated Vietnam, both the north and the south. But due to some political reasons in the United States, the United States Army have to go off Vietnam and give the country back to the North Vietnamese government. And finally, in the year 1975, we have successfully reunified the country as a whole. But unfortunately, the country has received an embargo shortly after that. This embargo has heavily affected Vietnam's economy and the people's life. It have further make Vietnam into poverty, and the country was it's one of his biggest triumph in history. But in the next few years, the country have made a lot of efforts in order to have its name back into the modern world, and finally we have our embargo lifted and but ultimately in the year 1995 we have successfully have our diplomatic relations with the US to be normalized, and this has helped our country to be able to step back into the modern world. In the next few years, the normalization of the relations have helped Vietnam a lot. It has helped Vietnam to have a lot of investors around the world, and we have worldly make a lot of efforts in order to maintain peace after a devastating war. And this is the sole and only reason why Vietnam was picked for the summit between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump. It is peace and peace only. So how do you define peace? In my humble opinion, peace is the motivation for the people or a nation to be willingly cooperate in objects to resolve through non-violent ways. And in the world, Vietnam today is one of the leading countries in maintaining peace, and some even call our country the persona of peace. In the last 2 days of February, Vietnam responsibility to organize an event between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump, talking about the denuclearization in North Korea. We have executed the event perfectly, everything went smoothly, and there were no issues along the way. But however, Trump and Kim Jong-un couldn't come into the center of day, so the summit turned out to be a failure and ended earlier than expected. But the important part is Vietnam has proven itself to be capable of organizing such an important event, and in the political point of view of the world, Vietnam has raised its name in the ranks of the country that is leading in peace. So all in all, it was peace that Vietnam was picked for the summit, and then the effort to maintain peace in Vietnam have helped Vietnam to earn its place in the world. The Vietnam government and people are using their full power and efforts in order to maintain peace and hospitality to the other countries in the world.
Very well. You mentioned basically, the question is, why was Vietnam picked for the summit? Do you know where was the first summit held? Singapore, right? So the second one in Vietnam. And you think the reason is because Vietnam is a very peaceful country, and so they have good relationships with all countries. Do you think there are any political motives why the US might have chosen Vietnam, other than just because it's a peaceful and safe country?
In my opinion, because US have history of war with Vietnam in the past, and recently we have shown that we have reform, our country has reform, so the US believe that this might be the chance for Vietnam to prove itself to the world.
So you don't think there's no political motives, there's no benefits? All right, what about economical reasons? Are there any economical reasons why maybe Vietnam was chosen? Were there any treaties that were signed or any business that was held on the side?
Along the summit, the Vietnam government had to make its best effort to market the country's entertainment to the world. As at the summit, there are hundreds of reporters from around the world. They come to Vietnam, and throughout their time stay in Vietnam, they have enjoyed our country's food, culture, and equal hospitality.
We know obviously that conversations went south and they didn't reach an agreement. What are the consequences with both the US and North Korea? Anything came as a result that benefits Vietnam out of the summit, other than tourism?
Other than tourism, the summit was mainly about peace. So this is the point where Vietnam is have tries best effort in order to promote peace around the world.
Kim Jong-un stayed an extra 2 days after Donald Trump left. Why, and what were the consequences of those extra 2 days?
Well, mainly he is here to visit Vietnam, and so he's here to participate in some social activity with the conservative and the government, and explore our country.
No questions? All right, very well. Then I have no further questions. Well done.
phần chia sẻ của bạn Nguyễn Huy. Và sau đây thì chúng ta sẽ đến phần chia sẻ của thí sinh tiếp theo. Bạn Hà An với chủ đề What is the significance of the Charmington Second Summit in Vietnam? Xin mời bạn Hà An.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick question before I start my presentation. How are you all doing? Good?
Doing great.
Okay. So, how many of you have been to Singapore? 34. Thank you. Do you know what the similarity between Singapore and Vietnam is? Okay, Southeast Asia. Another one. I'm sorry. Okay. Just Singapore and Vietnam are both the destinations for Trump and Kim summits. Singapore was in June 2018 with the first summit, and Vietnam was where the second summit was held in February 2019. So I'll just quickly talk about the Trump and Kim second summit. It was held in roughly 2 days in February 2019, and it abruptly ended in 28th February at 13 o'clock. And then after that, a press conference was held at 14 o'clock at Marriott Hotel. It was unlike the Cold War summits before, and I will just roughly talk about the significance in the world and in Vietnam. So I'll start off by saying why the summit was chosen to be held in Vietnam. First of all, it was probably because of the geographical features of Vietnam. It was very convenient for Trump to travel from North Korea to Vietnam without having to travel by plane, because there was somebody who believed that he was afraid that somebody would shoot him if he just traveled by plane. Yeah, so he traveled by train instead. Okay, and then another thing is probably because Vietnam and North Korea are very similar. They're all one-party communist states. But in 1986, Vietnam opened its economy, and it has now been considered one of the most fastest growing country in Southeast Asia, with the GDP of 7.1%, I believe, if I do research right. And it also ended the war with America. So the significance here is that when people choose Vietnam to be the destination, then the mass media will prove that Vietnam is a more active and more diversified country without bothering too much about the past with the war with America. And also we held a very safe summit in Hanoi, Vietnam, which I believe increased our how international relations would look at Vietnam as a safer country. The next thing is the significance to the world as a whole. I think there's nothing much to talk about the final decision, because they make no decisions. They did not came to an agreement because they didn't look eye to eye on the conditions. So I think the relationship would still be a bit stressful, especially between countries that are involved between the countries and with nuclear activities. Although Kim Jong-un mentioned, Donald Trump mentioned Kim Jong-un as his very close partner, and he referred to the written correspondence between them as love letters, and claimed that it was a very smart and tough man. But I think the overall relationships will still be very stressful. But I think the more significant thing that we should talk about with the second summit is the symbolization of peace. Because we all know that North Korea is a very isolated country, and like everything is kind of limited to the country its own, but it has now opened to be able to talk to America. And so other countries having a Cold War with one another, like America and Russia or so on and so forth, will also be maybe able to follow the example and so be more open about their international relations. Okay, moving on to Vietnam, I'll talk about the economic aspect and the tourism aspect. For the economy, I believe that this will create a very multiplied effect because we reach a two-way trade value with an increased US $60 billion, which made US exports raise 46%. And continue the deployment of existing cooperation mechanisms and exchanges possibilities, lifting bilateral trade investment cooperation. This will also increase the economic development of Vietnam because the mass media has paid more attention to our country, and so more investments will be made, I believe. And moving on to tourism, which is my favorite part, because I'm a Vietnamese culture lover, and boosting tourism definitely means boasting about our culture and spreading it onto the world. And why I believe that tourism will develop after the second summit is because, as I said before, we held a very safe summit, and so our position on the international placement will definitely be increased, and people will kind of ask the question like, the second summit was there, I have to be there, I have to went to the Metropole Hotel where Trump was there, I have to like sit at the seat where Trump was sitting, and so on and so forth. And so when tourism in Vietnam is increased and journalists from everywhere, from international, from other cities around the country come to Hanoi, then it will, in return, develop our economy. And for tourism, there are a lot of things that we can try to boost about, like not only the man-made destinations, but also our cultural values and how we treat people in the international forum without bothering too much about the wars in the past. And as you know, Vietnam has a very long history of war, but I think with the current situation, Vietnamese people are much more open about countries around outside the world. And yeah, so just to make a conclusion and a brief summary, I think that the second summit of Trump and Kim in Hanoi, Vietnam in February 2019 has a significance for the world as an icon of a peacemaking attempt, and for Vietnam as an economy and tourism booster. Thank you.
Good. Very well. Thank you.
I'll just open up for questions.
Sure. Great. So what was Vietnam's role in the summit, other than hosting the event, obviously, and keeping it safe, and just allowing these two countries to bring their personnel and everything, and facilitating all this? Other than that, what else is the significance of Vietnam in this summit?
I think other than being the organizer, Vietnam will, I mean, every country has their beliefs and like expectations of the summit, and we also want to like have some sanctions lifted. And I think because we're all trying to like make the world a better place, so I'm not quite sure about this, but maybe like the significance of Vietnam is lies in its attempt to try to have both parties reach an agreement on peaceful decisions, which unfortunately they didn't. But yeah, I think that's the significance that we all want to reach, like lifting nuclear activities and stopping testing nuclear missiles.
Right. Now, obviously, we know that they had these discussions and negotiations in private, just the U.S. President and the North Korean President. Do you think that they should have had some kind of Vietnamese mediators to try to negotiate those talks? And do you think that the outcome would have been different if there had been a third party, a neutral party, in the middle of the conversations and negotiations?
Talking about the third party, I read an article that said that they suspected that China was interfering with the summit, and because Donald Trump made a statement about he was kind of disappointed because of China something, and people had that suspicion because China was not present, but China was mentioned in the statement. So I think any third party that would have been present would have changed the outcome of the summit, whether positively or negatively. But specifically for Vietnam, I think if Vietnam was being the moderator and participating in the summit, then maybe the outcome would change more positively. And like I said, because they chose Vietnam as a icon of peaceful and all that things, and people are trying to recognize the significance of Vietnam on the international forum. So maybe if Vietnam wasn't trying to moderate and keeping a more relaxed attitude, then maybe it would have been more positive about the outcome and their decisions.
There's more to one that people see, obviously, because we only know what happens above water, but we don't know what's underneath. And there is a big political movement happening. And it's funny that you mentioned China, because I was expecting China to be part of your presentation between China and the US and Vietnam. So there has to have political motives from the US to come so close to China and create this strong bond with Vietnam, establishing as a close friend with Vietnam. And if everything goes south with China, first of all, the US would support Vietnam, and that reduces the power that China has undisputedly all over Southeast Asia. So do you have any thoughts about how that might have played a part as to why Vietnam was chosen, other than the whole it's a peaceful country and this and that? Do you think that there was actually an ulterior motive as to why China was key in this negotiation? And talk a little bit more about the interference that China might have played, and that's why maybe we didn't have an agreement.
Just to clarify, so you have two questions. So the first one is why Vietnam was exactly chosen?
Right. More about the political motive,
okay.
Not the economy, not the tourism.
Yeah.
The political, strategic decision of the U.S. to choose Vietnam for the summit.
And the second one was how?
More about the Chinese intervention that might have happened.
Okay. So actually, I'll be honest, I'm not a very deep lover about politics. But recently I was studying at school about the Vietnam War and the things related. And so we talked about, we had a discussion about countries can never actually be friends forever. They only serve their own benefits, and once they do not see the benefits, then they'll stop being allies, and So I think I haven't done thorough research on this, but maybe Vietnam was also because Vietnam is the middle country, and we're really close to China, so we have to like kind of maintain a relaxed and like trying to be friendly with China without like trying to trigger them on like political movements. So maybe the US intentionally chose Vietnam without having China invited to the summit. I haven't done research on that, so I can't know for sure, but yeah, I think that there may be the political elements involved because, I mean, you know, country leaders cannot live without the political element. And for the Chinese interference with the summit, some people, I read an article and it said that like, some people suspect that China interfered with the summit, but then North Korea and China is also a very like stressful relationship. So not really like stressful, but they're also like very big exports and imports. And so the argument is still like going on whether North Korea was like taking the opinions and ideas from China to not reach an agreement with the American leader. So,
the situation is very political and complicated. Imagine you were the peace ambassador. How would you act?
Peace ambassador of the United Nations, or
yeah,
okay. Peace ambassador. I think like for the like each country can be simplified into one person. That's why we have the United Nations, right? We have each delegate for each country, and I think the key point of solving every conflict, like every conflict at all on this life, is to put yourself in other body's shoes and like try not to think too much about yourself. I think all the conflicts that we're having, like North Korea trying out nuclear weapons, or the wars we have, that's all about the leaders trying to gain benefits for their country and not caring much about the other countries. I mean, this is my country, this is my people. I have to benefit them. I have to give them like great development. But if I was the peace ambassador of the United Nations, I think, sorry. I think the first thing is to kind of like maintain a relaxed relationship with everyone, because if you're too leaning on one side, then definitely can't talk to the other side. And so I think it's important that I keep an open mind. I mean, like not classifying people into good people or bad people or so on and so forth, but trying to keep an open mind and try to explain like what are the motives behind each country's activities. And so when we can understand the real motives behind those movements, we can try to think of other like movements that can benefit both, or like more of like a co-relationship between countries that can benefit the world as a whole. And like specifically in this situation of China, America, and Vietnam, I'll be honest, but I don't know quite for sure, because it's a very stressful situation, and I mean, our top politicians are on the board and they cannot solve it yet. So I think if I was the peace ambassador right now, I wouldn't be able to solve it either. But I'll try my best. And the thing is, I think the world is facing a lot of problems as a whole currently, like, you know, human overpopulation, pollution, all the things that we're trying to address and solve. I think we should make it clear that instead of trying to benefit our country and our own, we should collaborate with one another and try to solve those problems as a
you.
I have more questions, but we don't have time, so I'm going to have to give you a pass on that. But thank you very much, and congratulations for making it so far in this competition.
Thank you.
Xin cảm ơn bạn Hà đã có một lời chia sẻ rất là xuất sắc. Và sau đây sẽ là phần chia sẻ của thí sinh thứ 9 của chúng ta. Vâng, xin mời bạn Nguyễn Đặng Quỳnh Ân với chủ đề Can we prevent internet addiction? How and what are some solutions?
Hello everyone. So today I'm here to talk about what is so-called internet addiction, and how can you, what is the steps and the tips that you can take to prevent internet addictions. So first of all, what is internet addiction? It is also called as computer addiction. Well, actually, there's no one exact definition to this situation, to this problem, but it is agreed that people who are addicted to internet is struggling through personal and professional obligations due to their online activities. And also, the use of internet is a strain in their relationships. There are 5 types of internet addiction. First of all is the cyber sexual. The second type is the net compulsion. Third type is the cyber relation. Fourth type is the gaming. And the last type is the information seeking. I will explain each of the types afterward, so let's continue. From my personal experience, my brother is a struggling addict to the gaming type. Well, and trust me, it caused a lot of problems. For example, he ignored the calling of homeworks and studies just to spend most of his time playing what is so-called the League of Legends, which is a very famous game in Vietnam. And also he passed meals just in order to have enough money to spend on the gaming accessory online. And when my parents find out, they were furious, and they take physical punishment, and which I do not agree with. And actually, I'm here to introduce ways and steps that you can take to help yourself quit using the internet too much. So first of all, identify the situation and admit it. There are several small questions that I want you to ask yourself and be honest with yourself. First of all, do you think you are being online too constantly? And if not, you think about the last time and the next time that you can use the internet. No matter how much time you be online, it can't seem to be enough. And well, this one is coming later. You lose track of time when you use the internet. And you feel irritated and depressed of not getting online as your will. If the answer is yes to all those questions, then congratulations, you're one of the 10% of the whole world population that are addicted to the internet. That are addicted to the internet. And well, the next major step is that you have to find out which of the 5 types you are, and in order to do specific acts relating to the sources. And the steps in order to prevent yourself from internet addiction is pretty small, but I'm sure it will be quite hard to do at first. And so we move to the phase 1, which is limiting your computer and phone time. Set a limit time for computer and your cell phones. Use an alarm clock or timer to help you. And second of all, fill your free time with physical activities or those that require a lot of concentration to distract you from the internet. Thirdly, call people instead of using text and messages on Messenger or e-message and whatsoever. Fourthly, use the library computer in order to seek information instead of using your own, and write down the things that you need on your notebook, not taking photo of it. Then the next phase is pursue alternative acts. Firstly, get a hobby or interest that does not involve internet, video game, TV, cell phones, whatsoever. And for example, you can join into clubs and teams and play sports. You can go for a run and do exercise. And secondly, put your obligations on first. For students, it will be homework, projects and study. For the working world, it will be presentation, meetings, etc. And most important is that make a to-do list for every day. There are plenty of apps that are available offline for you to make a to-do list every day, and trust me, it will help a lot in this situation. Thirdly, help with meals and prepare plans for a family night. There are several reasons to do this because those will involve talking and increase your confidence, improve your relationship with your beloved one. And the most important reason is that it will prevent you from using your meals alone with your computer. And the last but not least is hang out more. Instead of doing individual activities with your phones, your computer, go out for a bowling alley, for a mall, for an ice cream. Well, internet is a wild and wonderful place which has forever changed our life. But when you can't seem to balance between online and offline, it can cause a lot of problems. And I hope that you can take the tips that I gave and you will conquer your addiction. Well, they said that quit internet addiction is like quitting smoking, because the first month is actually the time that that you struggle a lot, but afterward it will be a piece of cake. So, fighting. Thank you.
All right. Now, well, it's obviously a fact that there is such thing as an internet addiction. Do you think that that should be treated as a mental health disorder? And if so, what would be the treatment?
Actually, I don't think it will be listed as a mental issue, because actually these type of activity will cause you mental issue. It is a cause, not a type of mental issue. So.
Now, so how can we prevent more teenagers or more people in general from becoming internet addicted? Now, the technology keeps increasing exponentially as we go, and it's not going to stop. So as more technology we have, there's more internet addiction. We have internet on our watches, on our cell phones, and there's a ton of different devices that are actually internet enabled. So how can we prevent that from future generations from becoming internet addicted?
Well, involve them in more physical activities. For example, you can take them out for dinner and talk with them, not using the phone on the computer, not using the phone or the computer in the family meals, or as the next generation is like your friends and your brothers, such thing, you can hang out with them more. And if the next generation is the students and the school is the one who have to take the steps, they should involve more extracurricular activities. And, for example, take them on trips and involve them in more.
All right, so for all kinds of different diseases, whether they're mental or otherwise, there are two solutions. There is the prevention phase, where you prevent it from happening, and then there's the treatment phase. So you discussed some alternatives to prevent it. What about the treatment? What about current societies that are so involved, so addicted to the internet? And just to mention one that comes from the top of my mind, Japan. Japan has a big problem with population because they're not creating babies as fast as they should, and this is as a direct consequence of internet obsession, because Japanese simply are not having enough sex and they're not producing babies, and they are not just obsessed with their work ethic, right? But at the same time, they are so obsessed with these fantasy worlds and this VR and all of these fantasy worlds. So what would be the treatment to solve that? Because that's already happening. It's not like it's going to happen in 5 or 10 years. It's, as of right now, the population of Japan is actually going to start declining. So what can we do to stop that?
Yeah. Đúng rồi.
Because I think that the Japanese is obsessed with their technology because they make a business out of it. So that is the reason why they are so obsessed with it, and they just can't seem to get out of it, because that is where their money comes from. So we can all, in my opinion, we can only prevent them from using unnecessary needs of internet, not prevent them from using it as a business, tools to help them make money.
But we're talking about grown-ups. We're talking about adults that have their jobs. They're fully functional human beings, parts of a society, but still they choose the virtual reality because it's more comforting and they can modify it to whatever they want. So what can we do about it? And is that setting a pattern for other countries to follow? Yes, Japan is very technologically advanced, same as South Korea, but that's the direction that all of the countries are taking. Just because they're ahead of other countries, it doesn't mean that developing countries won't take that path. So what can we do? One, this is a two-part question, to treat those societies that are already internet obsessed and prevent the developing countries from heading in that same direction?
Well, actually, if I am a Japanese and I'm wealthy enough, I can create an organization in order to cut them out from their virtual life. Yeah, and maybe we can create events and such things that they can take part in and meet other people and do some more physical activities that will involve them more in the real life, and maybe
Thank you.
All right, well done. Good job.
Xin cảm ơn bạn Quỳnh Ân về phần chia sẻ, và sau đây chúng ta sẽ đến với phần chia sẻ của thí sinh cuối cùng là bạn Võ Hoàng Thạc. với chủ đề Why is marijuana illegal but alcohol and tobacco legal? Xin mời em.
Hi everyone. Today I will talk about why marijuana is legal, but alcohol and tobacco is legal. Firstly, marijuana, as we call weed, is illegal in most of the country in the world because of some reasons. Firstly, let's talk about its disadvantage. Many people nowadays are addicted to weeds, or as we call marijuana, and they waste they waste a lot of money on buying weeds. Using too many of this will result in AIDS or HIV. For a source of information, I know that in Vietnam there are 10,000 people are addicted to weed and will result in HIV, and 3,000 or 4,000 of them will die when they suffer from AIDS. And over on the global, there are 41 million people suffer from HIV each year, and about 15 million of them will die after a few years as a result of HIV. About the marijuana benefits, it brings a huge profit to the government revenues. Each year, it will make about $20 million to the government's incomes, and each huge profit. So some of the country cannot ban due to its massive profit, and some people believe that the marijuana can relieve illness instead of medicine from the doctors. They will use the marijuana instead, and so as we can see, the disadvantages are overshadow the benefits. So it's very easy to understand. That's why many governments are prohibit the marijuana, and why the alcohols and tobacco is legal is because one main reason is the money to buy bags of tobacco or a bottle of alcohol is much cheaper than a bag of marijuana. A bag of tobacco is just cost about 20,000 Vietnam dong, but a bag or an ounce of marijuana can cost over 2 million. Because people in Vietnam are still live in poverty, so they cannot buy a bag of marijuana, but they will use tobacco or alcohol instead to leisure themselves. Reasons why government can't ban the alcohol and tobacco is because there are too many people are using it nowadays. We can see a government agency is smoke, or they will drink alcohol or beer in many occasions. So if they ban, the citizens will ask and cannot accept that. the marijuana is result in HIV or AIDS. It's not a pandemic, but this illness is obstinate and long and can't be easily cured. So for citizen safety reasons, so the government will ban the marijuana. And alcohol and tobacco is also bad for people's health, but not many people die because of them as much as they killed by the marijuana each year. So that is also another reasons for banning the marijuana. And I think
that's it?
yeah.
Now, you know, like some state in the U.S. using Arizona as illegal, right?
Yeah.
Should we legalize Arizona worldwide?
Using marijuana is just for leisure, but the cost of using it is way more, like it brings more disadvantage than the benefit. So if just for leisure purpose or amusement, then we should be risk our lives and health for illegal marijuana.
Can you read can you say one more time, what are the negative consequences of smoking marijuana? Are there any health consequences? You mentioned AIDS and HIV.
Yeah.
What is the connection? What is the relation between marijuana and AIDS and HIV? And if you're having the source?
The connections between it, I don't quite well, but many people, like 9% of people using weed or marijuana will, for a long time, will result in those illnesses.
According to who?
Newspaper.
What sort of newspaper?
200 years ago, people thought that the earth was flat until they discovered that it wasn't. Now you have more than 10 or 15 countries where they have legalized marijuana, such as Canada, the Netherlands, Germany, and you have many states in the US where they have legalized marijuana, and they have not found any negative health effects in short-term studies. When you compare that to tobacco and alcohol, that directly creates health problems such as cancer, cirrhosis, and so on and so forth. Why is alcohol and tobacco legal when it directly has health implications versus marijuana, which actually has medical benefits?
Firstly, for those poor country, marijuana is much more costly than those, so it can easily understand why the governments are banned. But for the improved, more development country, the reason why they ban it, as I have read, it's somehow connection with those illnesses like HIV or AIDS.
Right? Thank you very much.
Hello. Xin cảm ơn phần chia sẻ của các thí sinh ngày hôm nay, và chúng ta sẽ kết thúc chương trình Nam Anh Ngồi Bút ở hôm nay ở đây. Chúng ta sớm nhận được kết quả trong thời gian sớm nhất, và xin mời tất cả mọi người cùng lên phía trên sân khấu để chúng ta có thể là thực hiện một bức hình với nhau để kỷ niệm ngày hôm nay. Cảm ơn các bạn và quý phụ huynh.